We need more leaders in this world. We need more leaders in our community. We need leaders to step up. Are you going to step up if you're listening to this? Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Ignite the World podcast. This is episode number 17, Lead to Inspire. I am your host, Jamie Dottie Garza, and I want to talk about the importance of leadership. We need more leaders in this world. We need more leaders in our community. We need leaders to step up. Are you going to step up if you're listening to this? I want to talk about this because this podcast episode is inspired, by a good friend of mine. Shout out to Susan Spears, who's the CEO of the Fredericksburg Regional Chamber of Commerce. That's the Chamber of Commerce in my area. She inspires me, just her leadership and what she brings to the community I'm in. But I had the pleasure and the honor to be a guest on their podcast, the Leader to Leader podcast, last week. And that's what we spoke about. We spoke about leadership. It was a great conversation. I encourage you guys to go peep in and tap in there. It's on Apple Podcasts. We Are Business, Fredericksburg Regional Chamber of Commerce, Leader to Leader podcast. I'll leave a link below this too, so you guys could go tap in and listen to the great conversation we had. And we spoke about a lot, but it kind of it's instilled in me because over the past weekend, I saw two tremendous leaders again. Actually, yes, I saw two tremendous leaders on Saturday. One was a new pastor whose installation was on Saturday, and his name's Reverend Keenan Thomas. I had the pleasure of working with him, connecting with him, and creating videos for him, being a young pastor. He's 37, and he's been called, he's been chosen to serve that leadership role, very connected, already connecting with our community here. And I love seeing young, ambitious, just great leaders just boldly come in and do the mission of God. And then, of course, my pastor, Reverend Baker, at Third Mount Zion Baptist Church, he was celebrating his 25th year of pastoring. That's tremendous. Talk about showing up consistently, week in and week out, year after year. That is a blessing. So those are some of the individuals who inspire me. And then also on Friday, it was a big chamber event gala for their annual gala celebration, and talk about when you have a room of over 500 people and a lot of leaders I admire in my community, and brushing shoulders with them, and then building rapport, having relationships with a lot of them who I respect immensely, and just knowing these are the individuals who are keeping our area thriving and moving. And it's a blessing to be a part of that, because I am a part of that. I am a leader in my community. I stepped up. I am 34 years old, but I learn through a lot of individuals and people I respect and I aspire. I take away leadership from a lot of qualities from people I'm blessed to know. And I kind of want to talk about that, because if you would have asked me years ago, I never thought I was a quote unquote leader. I didn't really know what leadership was. On that podcast that I spoke about, I said leadership ain't really clicking to me until I started to have a family, when I was raising my kids and building a family. And that's when I started realizing and having a business that, wow, there's a lot that comes with being a leader, being a business owner in my community. And I kind of want to talk about that today. And if we think about it, let's define leadership first of all. In the dictionary, it says leadership is the act of guiding a group of people or organization to a desired goal, result, or higher level. So one can say I'm a leader because I'm showing up consistently, building this podcast because I want to inspire as many individuals as I can in this world with real stories and true testaments of what I've been through, and hopefully inspire more leaders after this. That's a leader right there, being bold, having a vision for the future. When people can't really see that, you are a leader. I'm calling this out to potential leaders out there because we need more of you in our world, in our community. trust me, I was this person who used to work a 9 to 5 at Best Buy, and I never got offered, to be manager or the general manager. I forgot their hierarchies or CEOs, or I never had titles associated with my name. In fact, I remember at Best Buy, I got offered a supervisor position one time, but I respectfully declined because my vision for myself, when we talk about vision of a leader, I didn't want to waste their time. I was great at what I did, but I had a vision that I wanted to have my own business one day, and I stood on it. Here I am 5 years later, building a business in my community, very well known, but there's a lot that comes with that. And I make sure I serve as a leader each and every week. And it's a beautiful thing. There's a difference. I want to talk about the difference between a boss and a leader. We all hear like, oh yeah, I'm bossed up, I want to be the boss. I never want to be the boss in anything. Because all bosses do is just bark orders and have this ego attached to them. I've worked with a few bosses when I was working retail, especially at Lowe's. I'm not going to mention the gentleman's name, but how he used to run his store, how he used to just talk to employees is just disgusting and disturbing. It was almost narcissistic, if you ask me. Very egotistical, very power driven. That's what a boss was. He was never a leader, because a leader would get in the trenches when you needed it. A leader would empathize with you, would have some empathy on going on the mission. And that's what inspired me to be the best leader I can be. And even when I have a few editors who I'm blessed to have partnered with me and helping my company grow, and I hire filmers occasionally to help me with projects. I can't do it all by myself. And I'm never the one to bark orders. I'm never the one to think I'm higher than. Let me guide you through. So I'm still learning leadership to this day. And I think leadership is an ongoing journey. And if you think you've accomplished it all, I think that's when the ego starts to pour in. First of all, I want to shout out my mom. I shout out my mom in the podcast because Susan asked me who's been my biggest inspiration as a leader. And I said my mother, because from the get-go, my mother taught me all these traits. I grew up in a single-parent household. So my mom played both roles for me. She had to be loving and have that unconditional love, but she also had to be strict and tell me the truth and be genuine and be vulnerable. I grew up at a very early age, and I'm grateful for that because a lot of those traits seep into the type of leader I've become now. And I know you're listening, Mama, so I love you. Just need to say that. And I feel like now, and this is why I instilled to my sons are 6 and 13, on the importance of being a leader, because it takes courage. When you're a leader, especially when you're being bold, it takes courage to speak up on things that you're passionate about. I do that each and every day. I did that over the weekend at the Chamber Gala event. I'm still sober. Let's go, team sober, team no alcohol in the building. Over a year right now. Yeah, let me just get a Pepsi on the rocks. If anyone asks me for a drink, I decline. It takes boldness to do that. That's what a leader does, right? Have that courage to stick up for what you believe in, your morals, your principles, your integrity, how you carry everything. That's a leader. These are traits of the leader. I want to talk about traits of the leader because you probably have traits as a leader. You might not realize it. I didn't know all of this. I didn't read books on this, by the way. I'm the type that I'm going to learn as I go. Now I read a few books because I like to tie in everything. I like to connect the dots and get more understanding. I'm on a journey of truth. God has blessed me with discernment and just this drive to just learn knowledge and wisdom. And I felt compelled to share these traits that I feel that make a great leader. Having humility, being okay to drop that ego. I've seen ego, and I used to be a victim of it too. I'm speaking from self. Ego used to just be my biggest downfall, being so cocky, being arrogant. And that's why I gave up alcohol too, because it would kind of like infuse that. I would get infused by those type of traits, those narcissistic traits. But you gotta be humble, and you gotta have humility. No one wants someone who thinks they're the best each and every time. It's one thing to have confidence, but to be very ego driven, you're going to turn a lot of people away. I've had a lot of conversations with some top leaders, and they tell me that's one of the biggest turnoffs, is just someone who is just so ego driven, who only cares about me, and no one else. I've seen companies, I've seen people ruin their relationships, even with their own wives or partners. And I'm the type of leader that I'm vulnerable most of the time. I'm very open. I'm very transparent, because some might see that as weakness, but for me, when you have humility and when you're able to be honest and transparent, what you do is you strengthen the bond. Like, you put more skin in the game that way. Think about it. If we just heard people's success stories all the time, that it was all good, yep, I imagined this, yep, and I went straight to the top, no one will really resonate with that. But when you hear a story of, like, perhaps Steve Harvey was like, you know what, I didn't have all this. I slept in my car for 3 years. I was grinding. Those little things are vulnerable pockets. You connect a little bit more. Like, for me, this has been a work in progress. I'm still a work in progress. I humbly say that. I don't have it all together, but I'm speaking for what I've seen in these past 10 years of getting here. Quitting my job, battling alcohol addiction at one point in my life, not being aligned with God. This is why I want to inspire others, especially those younger than me or maybe in my same age bracket, because we're all learning as we go. I also believe having focus is a very crucial part of a leader. So I've served as a president for a BNI chapter that I was a part of for about 4 years. I was president last year. And that taught me everything I felt like I could not read in a book, that people couldn't teach me. I had to be in it. I was in that position for a year, and I learned exactly what type of leader I was. When we talk about being the president, because this is what happens when you're president. These are some takeaways I took. I'm the face of the group. As president, I have to show up consistently. I have to show up each and every time, to a point I didn't take a day off. Not one. I was at every meeting. I was at every social event. I was interacting with each and every one. I felt like I was really a president. Everybody wanted to talk to me. Everybody wanted to vent their problems. I listened. I empathized with them. Okay? I also had a keen focus. I was like, I'm gonna get us to a place where we can grow as a chapter, where we continue to grow even after my presidency. And I'm proud to see that happen now as I've left. And it's a beautiful thing. But one thing, when you are a leader, right, this is what happens. There's a lot of accountability. That is so key. You have to take accountability, because guess what? It doesn't matter if you do something good, they're going to say it's because of you, right? And it's easy to accept that, like, oh, thank you. But also, on the contrary, if things don't go so well and it goes bad, they're going to say it's because of you. And it doesn't even have to be because of you. It could have been because of some other member or something. Since you're president, you're always going to have to take that accountability. And as a leader that I'm the same way I operate that in my business. Even if I don't mess up, if there's an edit or one of my filmers shot something and it didn't work out, I take the accountability. I'm sorry. This is because I take accountability for everything. And I think that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of leaders I see today. but it goes such a far way. And it kind of ties in, if you think about it, accountability with the ego, with the humility, with clear communication. This is like all the pockets of leadership that I thrive in, and the type of leader I've become and am becoming. I can't say so many leaders, and a lot of the leaders I look up to in my community, I realize they're like almost double my age. And it humbles me, like, wow, I still have a long way to go. I will never outshine the master. And it's a long journey, but it's an inspiring journey. And that's what keeps me going each and every day. Because I pray to God all the time to provide me my footsteps, to provide me knowledge and wisdom, to provide me of where I'm supposed to go. And he called me to make this podcast, double down on it. I really truly believe that there aren't enough leaders in this world, especially positive leaders, great role models. I see a lot of individuals or a lot of kids lost in the sauce, and maybe all they need was one person to tell them some real, pour into them, maybe some traits that they already have, and meet them where they are. As a leader, what I learned from my last presidency as serving as president and to this day is all about bridging the gaps from me in my 30s to young teenagers going into young adults, to me in my 30s bridging gaps with someone who's 40, 50. Oftentimes, a lot of people tell me I have an old soul, or I've been here before. It's because I can empathize. And I think our world needs more of that, and positive influences and role models, especially our young men out there. I speak to that because, one could have said, oh, I was going to be doomed because my mom, single parent household, but I'm here to flip that narrative to this day. And I want this podcast to serve as whoever's listening out there, that there's probably a leader inside of you. I didn't know I was a leader, okay? I didn't do anything magical or took college courses on any of this, or read specific books or libraries or dictionaries. The things about books can only tell you so much. Sometimes you have to go out there and just do. So anyone listening to this and you're inquiring of how to start with leadership, start honing in on yourself first and just do it. But it will unfold for you if you want it to. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you guys so much for continued support or listening to this podcast. I got some more great episodes coming this month. We are in May already, almost halfway through the year. I just love the consistency. Again, being a leader, being consistent, and you guys tuning in. I'm truly blessed and grateful. You guys make me better. You really do. God makes me better. All praise to God. I just want to shout out to all the amazing leaders in my community of Stafford, Virginia, Fredericksburg, Virginia, Spotsylvania, Virginia, in this region that I love serving. I admire you guys, Xavier Richardson, Jenny Mayturn, Susan Spears, Eric Fletcher, Dan Craddock. Come on now. I could go for days just mentioning the names of people who inspire me in their leadership. Pastor Keenan Thomas, Reverend Baker, as I mentioned. Bianca Guzman, the new current president at the BNI Woodbridge Business Exchange. What up? It's a lot of great leaders, a lot before me. I just want to give everyone a shout out, because without those leaders, there is no me. And without God, of course, there's no me either. So I'm just truly humbled, and I love being a leader. You guys could be a leader too. We need you. You guys stay blessed, and remember this: we are all like sticks of dynamite. The power is on the inside, but nothing happens until the fuse gets lit. Ignite the world. Peace.